You're watching WATE 6 on your side, News at 6.
Well, we have seen the conversation and awareness of sexual assault grow with headlines involving athletes.
Really all across the country, from several getting a lot of national attention to right here in our city. As we've told you, 2 former UT football players are facing rape charges. We just learned today the arraignment date for A.J. Johnson and Michael Williams has now been set for March the 9th.
Well, all of this is fueling really a call for change on college campuses, saying the way they treat sexual assault cases is helping to keep attackers out there on the streets.
So we wanted to really break down the reporting process and the options for victims. And when we started digging, well, we found one victim who says it was her school who delivered the only justice that she will ever see in her case.
He's going to be able to go out, he's going to be able to get a job, be successful. Nobody's ever going to know that he sexually assaults women.
This 19-year-old UT student's attacker is walking the streets, a free man right now, while the victim, we will call her Sue, conceals her identity, coping with the emotional scars left behind.
It's made it a lot more difficult to be in groups. Anybody I don't know, I'm not very comfortable around, especially males.
Sue said her attacker was her friend's co-worker, taking advantage of her after she had had too much to drink.
I wake up at about 7 and don't remember anything that's happened. I feel like I've had sex, but I'm not sure.
Confused and concerned about possible STDs, Sue went to the UT clinic and spoke with a campus police officer.
The night in question happened here at the tower at Morgan Hill. Now, technically, this is not on campus and not in UTPD's jurisdiction. Had the assault happened, though, even just across the street, it would have changed how it was reported and investigated. Our victim, however, was told she had just 2 options: to report this to KPD and/or student conduct. And that's where she turned.
At first, I decided I would do student conduct. And that would just be because I was a student and he was a student.
Student misconduct cases can be handled 3 different ways. This victim's case was heard by the Student Conduct Board, a panel of 3 student jurors. Ultimately, this case came down to whether or not the victim was able to give consent. And UT Student Code of Conduct says that you cannot give consent if you are intoxicated or passed out.
And he admitted that.
He did. I don't think he really realized the impact that had. That he wouldn't say that I was asleep, but he wouldn't deny that I was unconscious.
Sue's attacker was expelled from campus. The rape will show up in crime stats, but there's no criminal record of it.
The fact that he was expelled made me feel good, but his reaction to that he didn't really care that he was expelled, it made me feel like I wasn't finished.
So 1 month after the attack, she went to KPD and filed a report. In the end, though, she was told there was not enough evidence for charges to be filed.
The state is much higher compared to the university level, which I had just done. So the university, having not said yes, was enough to say that it wasn't consent, but for the state, that wasn't enough.
UT Deputy Chief Emily Simmerly teaches rape aggression classes and has handled a number of assault cases. She says unresolved ones, like Sue's, are all too common.
I can tell you the prosecution rate on our cases is very low.
Simmerly says unlike some campuses, UTPD can be the lead investigator on a rape case and present findings to the district attorney if that assault happened on campus. In all of 2013, only 4 cases were reported to UTPD for investigation. Other victims may just seek out counseling services or proceed with student conduct. But ultimately, Simmerly says having more options will increase those willing to talk about their attack.
And I anticipate that number increasing. I think people feel more comfortable with the process and they realize, I want my information to be heard and I want somebody to be able to do something with this.
Now, we are aware each and every victim's experience with the student conduct system is different. In fact, in an article in the Tennessean recently, they highlighted a victim who says she saw no justice. So we reached out to UT to get those numbers for you. Well, last year, take a look at this, 36 alleged sexual assaults were reported to the university. 5 students were charged with violating the Student Code of Conduct. Only 3 of those were found responsible at this point. 2 are currently in process is what we're being told. Now, we are not letting go of this story for you. We are still getting answers for you about the prosecution rates when it comes to college sexual assaults. On our website, we have included all of the stats that we have gathered from UT and more information on how you can get help if you or someone you know is a victim of sexual assault. Just look for this story in the As Seen on WATE section.
Another rape investigation involving a UT student is making headlines, but as we found out in our special report in February, almost none of these cases get tried in a court of law.
Now, oftentimes it is the victim's choice not to pursue charges. Other times we're told there's just not enough evidence. So what does it take for a rape victim to get his or her day in court? We took that question to Knox County's first female district attorney, who openly admitted the system is broken.
I'm a person that when I see a problem or an issue, I want to tackle it head on. And I do believe that we have way too many people being sexually assaulted on college campuses, not just UT, but on all of our college campuses.
With more than 25 years working in criminal justice, much of that in the county's sex offense unit, Knox County's new district attorney general is quite open about prosecution or lack thereof of sexual assault cases involving students. When we sat down with Sharm Allen to talk about this, she mentioned getting a vague folder on her desk.
Well, we got a report, and we were averaging about one a week, sometimes one a day, but generally it averaged out to one or two a week, and they were very vague. They would say, female student raped by male student, female student raped by unknown male, female student raped by male student she knew. And so there were no names, there were no dates, there was no information.
Allen says she reached out to UT wanting to know more and knowing that the number of cases is likely higher than most anticipate.
You know, so we're only seeing the reported rapes, and I can guarantee you that sexual assaults are happening that do not get reported on the college campus.
The DA says that one of the first things that needs to change is actually a phrase that many of us associate with sexual assault awareness. We're talking about no means no. The DA says that often women won't say no, but it still could be a rape.
Sometimes they're too intoxicated, sometimes they're too scared, sometimes they're frozen out of fear. And if a boy doesn't hear no, that doesn't mean he can actually go ahead. I think we should be saying, if you don't hear yes, then it is a no.
To be charged with rape in Tennessee, prosecutors have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that there was unlawful sexual penetration of a victim accompanied by any of the following circumstances: force or coercion, a lack of consent, knowledge the victim is mentally incapacitated or physically helpless, or fraud. But Allen says proving this can be a challenge, especially when it involves alcohol and college students.
Those college rape cases are generally very iffy cases. If we had a cut and dried case on film, we would prosecute that 100 out of 100 times. It's generally a he said, she said.
Allen told us after reviewing the amount of proof needed at the state level, many victims choose to just go through UT Student Affairs or do nothing at all. So we asked if she was concerned that attackers are walking free.
By law, it's our decision whether to prosecute or not. It's clearly the prosecutor's decision whether to prosecute. We let the victims weigh in on that very heavily. It's my feeling that it's their life, it's their family, it's their daughter.
For now, Allen says she's starting with trying to increase communications between all agencies.
I really believe that if we get to a point where we can sit down, everybody, all the players come together, sit down and talk about the issue, and everybody really buy into this is a little bit broken, what can we do from our side to fix it? We'll make strides. We will make strides and it will get better.
Now, after this interview, we asked the DA's office for the number of reports they have received from UT so far this year. The DA puts that number at 22, but remember, she described those cases as vague, and they do not specify rather if all of those were involving students. So then we went back to UT with that number, and the university says they have received 13 reports of sexual assaults this year involving students. Of course, we are not going to let this story go. We promise to continue to follow up to see how the DA's office and UT are working to help victims. We've also included more numbers that we have collected for you online, as well as a list of resources if you or someone else you know is a victim of sexual assault. All you have to do is check for this story in the As Seen on WATE section.